Hi everybody, Danny Bader dropping in here, and you saw from the title of this video, from ARUBA to COVID to the here and now. What the heck is that all about? Well, here we are, and 2 years from when this COVID thing hit. I was actually in Aruba at the time doing some work with the wonderful ladies and gentlemen of the Ritz-Carlton there in Aruba and the Marriott Beach Club next door. And I remember my wife called and we were chatting, and she said, you better get home. This is crazy. This is starting to blow up. This COVID thing is real. And I thought, all right, let me get home. And then, like many of us, I thought, okay, this will be over in a month or so. These things don't happen in the United States. And sure enough, then it goes to the summer and through, and we celebrate 1 year anniversary. I don't know that we celebrated it, but it's 2 years now since COVID. And the plain truth is, right now, here we are. We are in this here and now. So I have a podcast, and I'll put the link to it underneath it here, that I did years ago with a friend of mine, a wonderful guy named Chick Kelly. And Chick had a tragic accident when he was a freshman in college. He was an ice hockey player, a really good ice hockey player. And he had an accident where he slid into the boards and he broke his neck. And then Chick's been in a wheelchair ever since. And take a look at that podcast if you want. It's pretty powerful. He has a tremendous outlook on life, and I admire him a whole lot. And at one time during our interview, Chick said, I said, was there a time ever when the proverbial flip, the switch flipped, and you said, all right, here's what I'm going to do? And he said, yeah. He said there was a pivotal time when they were taking the trach tube out, the breathing tube, and he said, the nurse is cleaning up all the gunk and everything. And he says, I thought to myself, this is good. I can now go work out. I can eat solid foods. And he looked at me, and you'll watch this in the video, in the podcast. He said, I'm going to go live my life as close to as it would have been if this did not happen. I'm going to go live my life right now as close to as it would have been if this did not happen. So he didn't discount the tragic facts of his situation right there. The accident happened, and now he's in a wheelchair. What he had, though, was that beautiful insight to say, damn it, regardless of what happens to me, I have a picture of my life, of what I want it to be and how I want it to live it and who I want to be in it. And I'm going to go make that picture as close to as it would have been if this did not happen. So I encourage us all to take some of that wisdom from Chick and think about living our life right now, coming back to life after COVID, being fully alive. What would your life be right now 2 years later if COVID didn't happen? What was that trajectory that you were on in your business and in your relationships and with your finances and your spirituality and all those things? Look and say, did COVID interrupt it? For most of us, I think it did. But think to yourself, right now that we're here and now, what would it have been? Where would I have been if COVID didn't hit? And am I there right now? If not, what needs to happen to move me there? And then some of you will go, you know what, Danny, but COVID did hit, and it was a pain in the ass. And I lost my business. I closed down my restaurant. I had some really big struggles and challenges with relationships. They talked about a lot of divorce came out of this. Kids in college, they missed athletics and all these other things. So, yeah, I get that. You're looking, you say, I can't go into this mindset. I'm going to go live my life as if COVID didn't happen, because COVID did happen. And, the facts are brutal. And I would offer you right now then, yes, and you are still at the here and the now. So if COVID interrupted that trajectory, right, for these past 2 years, and you can't get back on that same one, I get it. And I'm going to challenge you a little bit and say, yes, you can. What was it that you were creating in life that you were headed towards in those 2 years? And is it radically different now from COVID? Probably not. So I would encourage you to think about a couple of things. I know it's what I'm thinking about. 3 things right now as we get into this post-COVID. I mean, many of our lives now will be, before COVID and after COVID. Is really think about the next 10 months. Think about the next 10 months and what is in your power to create in terms of your relationships and in terms of your career and in terms of finances and everything else. The world's opening back up. The masks are gone for now. What is it that you need these next 10 months to look like? What needs to occur for you? How do they need to unfold? And that's all vision, right? And that's that ability of, as I talked about with Einstein before, imagination is more important than knowledge, right? Knowledge is we had a brutal 2 years. The imagination is, okay, and that's done. Let me go create something for myself. I know I'm all about that. Here it is for me. It was a great eye-opener, just sharing this. When I was in ARUBA, I was having the best first quarter of my business. And here's what I was doing. I was doing a lot of workshops around productivity. And I liked it. And you know what? Had COVID not hit, I probably would still be doing a lot of those. But what COVID really did is it kind of rocked my world a little bit because business slowed down, as you can imagine. And now I'm thinking, do I really want to do those workshops for 30 people a day? And yeah, I'm still doing some of them. Or what's the bigger stage that I need to move to? What's the greater impact that I can make? Why haven't I put all my attention on keynote speaking, where you have 400, 500, 600, 700 people out there where you can deliver your message? So COVID gave me that shift. Yeah, you're still going to do some of those productivity seminars. They're very beneficial for people. I like it. And I'm going to look to make a larger part of my business, this keynote. I wrote the 4th book, Taking the Shit Out of the Show, during COVID. Don't know that I would have done that, had COVID not showed up. And we have some interest. We're talking to people about that screenplay for the first book, Back to Life. So COVID, yeah, while it kind of shut me down for a little bit and I went into a bit of a funk like many of us, it also gave me a good kick in the ass. So think about what's that vision for the next 10 months for you. The other thing is think about people. The happiest people are in the world, there's tons of research out there and studies, have the best relationships. Many, many relationships were impacted during COVID. So what I ask you right now, as you go out post-COVID, who needs to be on your team? Who needs to be in your camp? Who are those key people that bring really, really good energy to you? And then think about, what relationships do you need to leave behind? Or do you need to kind of lessen a little bit? You still love the person. We just love them from a distance a little bit because they're not supporting us and they're not bringing the energy and we don't have that transfer, me to them, them to me, that's moving us in the right direction. I wrote about in a couple books, and there's signs that you see. I saw one in a bar once, and it said, everybody here brings happiness and brings a smile. Some when they walk in the door, and some when they walk out the door. So think about your relationships, too. It's really, really important. And then the third one I would encourage you to think about here in our post-COVID world, in our here and now, is what's your connection to something bigger? I believe that people's spirituality, people's faith, whatever you want to call that, really was kind of tested and rekindled, and the embers of somebody's failing faith, had a little bit of fanning and a little bit of air blown onto it because COVID came and people were dying. So now our mortality is called into question. Well, you know what? There's a lot of people I know that give up prayer and give up faith until they get diagnosed with a bad disease or they get close to death. Now, holy shit, I got to pray now. And that's okay. It's never too late. I'm not saying, no judgment there. That might have sounded like judgment. It's never too late. I'm just saying, let's not wait for tragedy. And everything that came out of COVID, what is your connection to something bigger? That's all I'm encouraging you to explore. I call it God. I believe Jesus is who he said he was. I had an accident where my body stopped. I was dead, and then part of me didn't. That's my energy, my soul, it goes on. So I know there's something bigger going on here. And it's very, very important for us to connect with that in whatever way makes sense because it's going to give us support to move through these tragedies of life. It's also going to give us the capacity to love more. And I think that's a good thing that came out of COVID as well. So think about those three things, right? What's your vision now as you continue your trajectory or you begin a new one after COVID? What are the relationships and the people that you need to strengthen and have in your world? And which ones can you kind of leave behind or get them out on the periphery of your life? And then third one is just pay attention to your connection to something bigger. because I believe that's the foundation for us moving forward. You know, there's a great quote, too. I'll end with Oliver Wendell Holmes. He said, the great thing in this world is not so much where we are, but in what direction we are moving. In what direction we are moving. So let's all commit to supporting one another and moving in a very, very positive direction for our life so that we create wonderful times of fulfillment. We move through the difficult and challenging times. And we live our life in such a way that that day when we draw our final breath, perhaps we can put a smile on our face as well. All right, everybody, wishing you the best in this post-COVID world. Danny Bader, out.